to Vinyl Tales, where we spin tales about vinyl. Now, I've got three picked out for you today, and no, they don't have anything to do with each other. First, we have a song that was written because the group was doing a military performance, and the audience just wouldn't dance for him. Second up, we have a song that has become a signature song for the group that released it. However, it was just a cover of an older song. That older song did very poorly, despite the fact that it's actually liked by quite a bit of people. And lastly for you, I have a song that has become a massive hit, as well as part of who we are. We just wouldn't be the same if it hadn't come about. So, be sure to stick around and learn about all three of these cool songs on today's episode of Vinyl Tales, where we spin tales about vinyl. In 1972, two longtime friends had an idea. Janice Marie Johnson and Perry Kibble came together and formed a band known as A Taste of Honey. They started by finding other members in their town of Los Angeles. Eventually, they were able to bring together two other members for the group. A Taste of Honey now consisted of Janice Marie Johnson on vocals and bass guitar. Carlita Dorhan played the guitar, as well as also sang vocals with Janice. Perry Kibble had the role of keyboards, and after going through several people, they settled on a man named Donald Ray Johnson for the drums. In these early days, they also had a man named Greg Walker join them in singing vocals for the group, along with Janice and Carlita, until he left in 1975 to go join a little band known as Santana. A year later, in 1976, Carlita Dorhan left as well. Her spot as the second singer in the group was filled by a woman named Hazel Payne, who remained with the group until their popularity dwindled many years later, and most of the group left. Starting after their founding in 1972, A Taste of Honey had 6 years to improve its sound and figure out what they were going to be like as a band. During this time, they started out by playing in different spots, both in and around Los Angeles, where they were based at, just like a lot of bands do. Eventually, they graduated to traveling with the USO to different military bases overseas. They mainly went to Asia and Europe. They would travel overseas, and they would entertain the soldiers with live performances. After a trip overseas, when they had returned to their home in LA, they were performing at a nightclub in town when they were spotted by a pair of producers. These producers convinced Capitol Records to let them audition and that audition later landed them a 5-album contract. This contract they would eventually have trouble fulfilling. During one of their performances at a military base, they were having a tough time getting the soldiers to engage with them. According to Janis, they were getting absolutely no reaction from the audience, even though they were doing their best. It seemed like they all had contempt for a couple of women who thought that they could front a band. This was aggravating to the group, and during that performance, Janis, the lead singer and bass player, shouted at the audience from the stage. She said, quote, "If you're thinking that you're too cool to boogie, we've got news for you. Everyone here tonight must boogie, and you are no exception to the rule." Later that night, back at her hotel room, Janis wrote down that line that she had yelled from the stage. She thought it would be a good song lyric. Little did she know, not only was it a good lyric, but it would lead to the creation of their most popular and well-known song, the first song off of this album, Boogie Oogie Oogie. When the group was in the studio about to record the song, Janis Johnson was in there just playing around. She was just playing riffs on her bass, unaware that she was being recorded, when she came up with that bass intro that the song is known for. Later, after it had been recorded, when Janis first heard the song come over the radio, she almost got in a car accident. Apparently, she ran a red light because she was so excited to hear her song over the radio. She was trying to pull over but didn't realize that the light was red. The first word in the name of this song is boogie. Boogie actually wasn't originally associated with the disco music and all those dancing hits, mainly from the 70s. It was originally used as a term to refer to the boogie-woogie piano rhythm that was popular in blues music from the 1920s to 1940s. This piano rhythm would later go on to inspire other musical genres from it. After the bands of the 1970s got a hold of that word, it was then changed to refer to the dancing disco hits of that time, like we know it to mean today. Some examples include Jungle Boogie by Kool and the Gang, Boogie Nights by Heatwave, and Earth, Wind and Fire's Boogie Wonderland. Boogie Oogie Oogie was the debut single for the band A Taste of Honey, but it had more fame than just that. When the song came out, it topped all kinds of charts, and it became Capitol Records' first platinum single, having sold over 2 million copies. It was so well liked that they released limited edition colored records in different countries. For example, Mexico got a red one. But that's only the first one that I have for you today. This was Boogie Oogie Oogie by A Taste of Honey. It was written by a group fronted by a couple of ladies during that disco era of the 70s. After a military performance where the soldiers refused to enjoy the performance and danced to their music. It later became one of the most recognizable songs from the disco era and gave Capitol its first platinum certified single. Now stick with me for a little longer, and we'll get into the other two that I have for you today. Originally released on June 3rd, 1966, but wasn't made popular until after its release on March of 1981 by another group who just covered it. This song is a song that I'm sure all of you guys that love country music will be able to recognize. This time, we've got a hit by the Oak Ridge Boys off of their Fancy Free album called Elvira. You see, back in the mid-1960s, a guy named Dallas Frazier wrote a song about a street in East Nashville, Tennessee. This song would eventually end up called Elvira, named after the street. And he would release it as both a single and the title track to its respective album in 1966. It didn't do very well. It only made it to around the number 70 on the charts. However, in the years since, people have actually had some pretty good things to say about it. It's one of those hit its prime past its time kind of things. Its poor performance aside, it's actually been covered multiple times. The first major cover was by Kenny Rogers when he was still with the First Edition in 1970. A few years later, a country artist named Rodney Crowell released his own cover of the song in 1978. But his version did even worse than Dallas Frazier's original version did, if that was even possible, because his only made it to 95 on the charts. Charts aside, it's this version here by Rodney Crowell that would go on to serve as inspiration for the version that I'm sure you all are familiar with, the one by the Oak Ridge Boys. Now, the Oak Ridge Boys were fans of the song. When they heard Dallas Frazier's original version on the radio, they knew it was a song that they were going to remember. And they actually kind of liked Rodney Crowell's version, its poor chart performance aside. When they were putting together their album Fancy Free in 1981, they thought that they would go ahead and include their own version of the song. And so they stepped into the studio to record their own cover of Elvira. When they were recording the song, they wanted it to be a song for families of 4 to be able to sing together. The intention was to make something where Mom can sing the verses, the kids can sing the hook, and then Dad can come in and sing that chorus that the song is known for. The idea was put together rather well, because when the song was finally released on their album, it managed to not only become a big hit, but it's one of their signature songs as well. However, signature song aside, up and down chart performance, you get back to the basics of it, That song that the Oak Ridge Boys are known for is a 15-year-old cover of an older song written by someone who just liked the street a little too much. And that's the second one that I have for you. But it's not the last. I still got one more for you. So, here we go. In 1977, a couple of French producers named Jacques Morali and Henri Bololo, along with lead singer Victor Willis, recorded an album titled Village People with the help of some studio musicians under the group name The Village People. That album was a success, and they ended up getting numerous requests for a live performance. In response to the requests for a live show, the two producers put an ad in the New York Theater Trade magazine that read, quote, "Macho types wanted. Must dance and have a mustache." They were looking for 5 more guys to make up the remaining members of the Village People, since the ones that they had previously used to record that first album were nothing more than studio musicians. They weren't actually members of the group. On Monday, after Thanksgiving of that year, so we're still in 1977, the now 6 members of the group went in to sign their contracts to officially become part of the group. The following Tuesday, they were already in the studio recording today's song, Macho Man. The song Macho Man had been written just that morning by the lead singer Victor Willis, and the lyric sheet that he had used was thus covered in egg stains and coffee rings to prove it. Everything was just happening very quickly. One day they're signing contracts. The next day they're in the studio already recording the songs. When the Village People's second album, this one here, where Macho Man is the title track of, came out in 1978, so the next year, the picture on the front of the album was actually the debut of the official lineup for the group, even though there had already technically been another album released under their name a year earlier. Something else about this song, it was this song that actually gave the term macho its meaning. This song first appeared in print back in 1928, so it had already been around for a few decades. But the meaning of the song, the meaning of that phrase, macho, was originally a hot Latin lover who keeps his wife in the kitchen and pleases her once a night. I changed a couple of the words to make it more appropriate. When the Village People released their single, however, they changed the meaning of that term to mean a strength of character, the strength to feel like you can survive on your own. This was because of the song itself. The song is about self-confidence and not being afraid to be yourself. You shouldn't worry too much about what others think of you. The song Macho Man was more than just simply a song to dance to. It's turned into much more than that. You can get evidence of this if you simply think about how much its influence has appeared over the years. For instance, and a lot of you may know this one, the wrestler Macho Man Randy Savage took inspiration for his nickname Macho Man from the song. Something else, on season 4, episode 5, two characters on The Muppet Show, one of them being Gonzo, sang the song on the show. And it even went as far as Donald Duck himself even released a parody of the song called Macho Duck. It's made its way into many movies and TV shows. There are too many of them to list here. If you want to know what they are, simply look the song up. And it also inspired the name of a Kentucky Derby racehorse. You see, Macho Man by the Village People, to some may seem like just a fun song. But when you actually get into it, it's more than just music. Over time, it's become one of America's most loved songs. And we just wouldn't be the same without it. And that's all 3 that I have for you today. First, there was a song, Boogie Oogie Oogie, by A Taste of Honey. That was written from a line shouted from stage because the audience just didn't feel like dancing. Then we had Elvira by the Oak Ridge Boys, which was originally written about a street in Nashville, had its ups and downs, but was eventually released as a cover by the Oak Ridge Boys, and that cover made its way into country music history. And finally, to wrap it up, we have Macho Man by the Village People, which is about self-confidence by a group that was quite literally just thrown together the night before. Yet, that being its start, it's made its way into some very strong places, and if it weren't around, the world would be a different place. If you have any other cool stories, or maybe some interesting facts about songs or albums, genre, age aside, don't matter. I just look for the cool stories and those facts that you just don't think about. If you've got some, leave them down below in the comments and I will check them out. While you're at it, like, comment, subscribe, do all that fun stuff. In the meantime, I am Brandon. This has been another episode of Vinyl Tales, where we spin tales about vinyl. I hope you enjoyed today's episode, and I will see you next time.